Today I'm going to talk about Claudio's NG Tube. Let me explain what an NG tube is. Claudio wears a plastic tube that is inserted through his nose into his stomach. We insert the tube into his nose and slowly push it into his throat. When it comes to the entrance to the esophagus, he has to swallow it. We have to practice it with a nurse. If he doesn't swallow it properly, the tip of the tube may come out from his mouth, or worse yet, it may enter his airways, which is quite dangerous. If he successfully swallows a tube and a sufficient length has gone into his gastric system, then we have to check if the tip is in the right place in his stomach. Prior to the insertion, we decide the length of the tube by measuring the distance from his nose to his stomach, which is a little bit above his belly button. We mark a point that's the same distance from the tip of the tube. Once the tube is inserted to the designated length, we put a little bit of air into the tube using a syringe and listen to the sound through a stethoscope. If you can hear the sound of air from his stomach, then the tube is in the right place. Once the tube is in, we put a bandage tape onto it so that it won't come out easily. We listen to the air sound in his stomach every time before we make an injection to make sure the tube hasn't moved after the last injection. Then once or twice a day we suck the stomach contents out of the tube to check how much of food or liquid residue from the last meal remains in his stomach. We also check the amount of air in his stomach. If there's any, we make a note in a log record. When Claudio's unwell, his digestive system becomes weak and there tends to be more residue in his stomach. If the amount of the gastric residue is more than a certain level, 50 ml or so in case of Claudio, we don't inject anything and wait until the residue is digested. If there's no residue, then we inject food or fluids right away. Claudio doesn't have much problem digesting fluids, so we just use syringes to inject water and electrolyte fluids. For feeding him nutritional formula, we use a device called an irrigator. An irrigator as a medical term means a plastic bottle used for tube feeding or intravenous injection. Again, Claudio has relatively few problems digesting, and we don't have to care about the speed of dripping much. But those who have difficulty digesting may have to be fed at a slower speed. For example, some people have 200 ml of liquid nutrition over 1 hour. Thankfully, Claudio doesn't have to spend so much time. He wouldn't tolerate sitting or lying still throughout the feeding. Once the tube is inserted, Claudio keeps it in place up to a month. Some people change the tube every 2 weeks. Others wear tube only at their mealtime and spend the rest of the day tube-free. Claudio doesn't like the feeling of the tube moving through his throat, and it is stressful for him to change the tube often, so we change it only once a month with his doctor's permission.
チャンネル登録と高評価よろしくお願いします。